Hey guys, it's Carly. Welcome back to Mostly Dating, a First Rounds on Media production. First Rounds on Me is a dating app that's designed to get you off your phone and on a date in real life. Head to the link in our show notes to learn more and get your first month free with the code Mostly Dating. I'm going to forego today's intro because we have such an exciting guest. So today we are joined by Marissa George. She is a cast member from season 7 of Love Is Blind.
Yeah, season 7.
And she was also recently named one of Variety's most powerful women in reality TV, which is so cool. Congrats.
Thank you. I was not expecting that, and I was so shocked, and I'm just grateful to be on that list with all the women on there. So I was like, okay.
Well, I'm not surprised at all. We were just talking about this. I knew from the second I watched the show, I wanted to have you on the podcast. I didn't tell you this, but you are only the second Love Is Blind person I've had on the podcast. And the first one was from season 1, which is so crazy.
Oh my God, who was it from season 1?
Kelly Chase.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Kelly.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, I feel extremely I feel really honored. So feeling good.
And so as we're getting into this, everybody listening who might not have watched the show, which I don't think is that many people, because when I put up a question box on Instagram for questions for you, everybody was like, first of all, they watched the show. Second of all, they loved you. So many people were like, she was my favorite character. I'm like, it's so funny to be called a character.
They told that in person. And I'm like, I'm not a character, but it's okay. It's okay.
Character. I love it. But anybody who hasn't watched it, I think this is still going to be so relatable because so many topics came up in this season. Your storyline, other people's, I think it was just anytime I'm watching this show, I'm like, I told you I watched with my boyfriend, and anytime we end up pausing it, we're like, oh, there's a topic we should talk about. And it's like,
I love that. I love, I got in a couple DMs about people saying that. They're saying, oh my goodness, I was able to have some conversation with my boyfriend that I, never thought about having
Okay, so we're going to get everybody up to speed a little bit. So I like to have my guests tell everybody a little bit more about themselves. So just for you, let's say where you're from, where you live now, and then a little backstory on how you got on the show.
Okay. So I was born in Orlando, Florida, but I moved around as a military brat. So I say I'm from North Carolina. That's where my mother lives now, in Fayetteville. And then I wasn't planning on ever doing a dating reality show, but then I had just been newly single, just had a quick 2-month relationship with some guy, and some guy,
as we do.
And I saw the casting and I put my name in, and I reached out to some of the casting directors. Wow. I was like, hey, just letting you know I put my application in, and the ball just went rolling. And I just thought it's super cool.
Yeah.
I want to find my partner. I was dating on the apps and meeting people in person, and I just figured, why not try a different, experience of finding someone. And then also going on Netflix is cool as heck.
Very
so
cool, yeah.
I am just okay, cool. I could do double whammy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how old were you at that time?
31.
Okay. Is there what's the range
31?
of the people that are on?
I think it was 30.
30. And then 31 when it filmed, I think.
Yes, 31 when it filmed, yeah.
Okay, cool.
I had just turned, scratch that. I just turned 31 when I applied, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so then fast forward, you get on the show, which was a long interview process?
It was pretty lengthy. It's very in-depth. They make sure to, do the background check, psychology, all that, so.
Yeah. Okay, and then you get on the show.
Yeah.
And such a crazy experience. And so you get into the pods, from a viewer's perspective, obviously, you kind of get zeroed in on these 2 connections that you have in the pods.
Yeah.
How fast was it that you kind of identified a few key people that you were best matched with?
I identified Ramses and Bowden as my top 2 pretty immediately.
Okay.
They stayed my top 1 and 2 the whole time.
Okay.
So I think I'm very intuitive. I like to listen to my gut. And when I talked to both of them based off our first dates, I was like, okay, I like these guys and I want to keep dating them. But I think I swapped between Ramses and Bowden. So one day I'd say, oh my gosh, I love Ramses.
Yeah.
One day I'd be like, oh my God, I love Bowden.
Yeah. Did anything happen that really made you think okay, it's going to be Ramses?
Yeah. One of the conversations Ramses and I had about physical intimacy was really the start of, okay, this is more my person. Bowden was a little bit more closed off about having that conversation, and specifically because it was just on camera.
Yeah.
And I wanted someone who could forget the cameras and talk to me about these important things. And I felt if Bowden wasn't telling me stuff because of the camera with the physical intimacy, what else is he not telling me off camera?
Yeah.
So that's something I like addressed with him. But Ramses just asked some really good questions during physical intimacy that wasn't about kinks and what you like.
Yeah.
It was about traumas and triggers and things along those lines. And so I felt, wow, he's really intelligent and very introspective. So
yeah, a lot of people did ask how you prepared for the show. So did you go in with questions you wanted to ask in the pods, or do they even like tell you certain questions to ask, or how did you manage that?
So I went in with some questions. They provide like stuff for you to like think about and topics for the day. You don't have to follow those topics. You could do whatever you want on your date. You don't have to stay there. You can leave. You can talk about anything. So I always prepared, in the morning, my journal, things that I want to discuss and were important to me. Yeah.
Okay. And then you and Ramses get engaged. Spoiler.
Yeah.
For everybody who hasn't watched it. And then how long after the engagement does the reveal happen?
The same
the same day?
Is it the same day?
I can never tell because like the way it's edited, it's like the next episode sometimes.
Oh no, I think it was the next day.
You have to like go and get ready and everything.
Yes, it is the next day. Yeah.
Okay.
I forgot. Yeah, so you see him the next day.
Yeah.
It's so insane.
Tell me about it. I need to know like what goes through your head in that moment.
Well, you're like standing there at the doors and they don't tell you when it's about to open. They just open. And you can kind of see like the other, like Ramses' silhouette through the crack of the door. So I could see like, okay, he is kind of tall and okay, he was standing so still.
Yeah.
And I was like moving all over the place, obviously. Very honestly, stark differences on that.
Like right from the start.
Yeah, right from the start. And so yeah, they open the doors, you just see him. And I mean, obviously I was super attracted to Ramses and I was just, you're like shaking because you're just so shocked. And I just thought he looked so great and I was really happy to see him. I didn't worry about him seeing me. Like I just was worried about like, hopefully I'm into him. Hopefully I'm attracted. And I would say it was pretty instant.
Yeah, I feel like yours was not like an awkward meeting or anything.
Yeah.
It seemed like you had chemistry right away. You had built that chemistry like emotionally. Yes. So from that like perspective, I think the like whole experiment aspect of it is really interesting because it's like you have to build that emotional connection. So it's like no matter kind of like what they look like, even if they're not like your type on paper, I imagine that you're gonna feel attracted to them in some sense.
That's what I thought. Like people have asked me, oh, if he came out looking completely different, would you have still been attracted or loved him? And I believe I would have. I'm very, very much the emotional connections there. That's why I don't really have a physical type in my dating
Okay,
history.
so you never had a type?
I don't have a type.
Okay.
No. My friends always were like, she has no type. Because I really am about the connection. So I think it could have been anyone that I connected with on the level that I did with Ramses. Ramses could have looked completely different.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask if like before the show you kind of had a type that you would go for.
Never had a type. But I got also very lucky with Ramses. Yeah. Like I just got lucky that he was super attractive. So
yeah. And so before the show, like before we talk more about you and Ramses, what was your dating history? Did you have longer term relationships or more like?
Yeah, I have a pretty good dating history. Okay. I've been in... I dated throughout college. I dated one person pretty much. And then once I, graduated from college, I dated someone for 2.5 years and then was single for a couple years and then dated someone for 1.5 years. So I tend to have no issue getting into a relationship.
Yeah.
And then in between, I was always very big about taking breaks. I obviously saw people in between those breaks of the long relationships, but I loved dating. I loved going on the apps. I loved going out and meeting new people. And even if it didn't go anywhere, I always just had fun on dates.
Yeah. And you and Ramses were such a fun couple to watch. At that point, it was like, again, you had that chemistry and then you guys went on like, do they call it the honeymoon? What is the trip?
The getaway?
The getaway. Yeah, you went on the getaway. And like, it seemed like the physical intimacy was great there. And you guys were just really getting along. Like I didn't see any like red flags or anything like that.
No red flags.
And then fast forward. And of course there were obstacles that came after that. But one of the things that you said that I think made so many people, it resonated with so many women was the thing about like being too much and feeling like that. And like, you said something about how like early on people love your energy and then it kind of becomes too much.
Yes.
So when did you start to feel that from Ramses? Was it when he like literally said something, or was there an energy that you felt that he was like not matching?
It was when he said it.
Okay,
I think that's why I was so taken aback during the breakup, because throughout the entire experience, it was, I love your energy.
Yeah.
I love your energy. It's amazing. So I was like, yes, I finally found someone who really appreciates the hyper side of me and also knows that I'm like multifaceted. So I'm not just hyper all the time.
Right.
I have a lot of depth to me. I can be very calm and quiet, but I did not know. No.
Yeah.
So, but I always felt that I was too much. And I look back and I realize that me and Ramses were opposite in a way. I always felt like I was too much, and he always felt like he wasn't enough. And I thought that was interesting. I think they say it right before our reveal, like us talking about it. And I realized, I think that's probably why we connected, is I felt like he truly accepted me fully for being too much, and I fully accepted him for quote unquote not being enough.
Yeah.
Until, I bring up, hey, I think you need to step it up. And then I think it triggers the I'm not enough stuff, and it downfalls from there.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
And that's like, and I thought like the way that you handled that, especially given that you're like on TV and there's cameras all around.
Yeah.
I feel like it was the way I think anyone should handle it. Like it seemed like every conversation that you guys had, and you had some difficult conversations, you were open and honest. So it's like, of course, there's been a lot of sort of like, I don't know, backlash about some of the different things that came up. There was the military thing. And so that was a big one. But I will say, like, in all of these conversations, you both were like openly talking about these things, it seemed like.
Yes.
And so I, from like putting myself in your shoes, like I wouldn't have felt any like major red flags from like a communication standpoint, because it seemed like you were having these open conversations.
Yeah, that's correct. We were having the open conversations. And, you guys are only seeing a snippet of it. And so just like any couple, sometimes you're going to disagree about something, or someone's going to be more ignorant about a topic than another. And you are in a relationship, so you work through that together. And he and I were really good at that. And so at the end of those conversations, they never felt like fatal to our relationship. And, he and I have talked about it. Those conversations were not, hey, we maybe shouldn't be together.
Yeah.
Because I do believe you can be with a partner who doesn't have the same exact ideals.
Yeah.
I definitely want someone to be supportive of my previous career, but Ramses was supportive of my previous career. Initially, definitely showed it in a different way, but after again conversation, it's like, okay, like we're on the same page.
Yeah, the most surprising time from my perspective when I was watching it was when he was meeting your friends and he was talking about it, like his concerns with it. I was like, oh my God, like again, like kind of respect that he feels comfortable bringing this up around her friends. But like the things he was saying, I was like, I cannot believe, like, because it was like, are you going to make me feel bad about something that's like such a huge part of me?
Yeah, and that's where I'm so accepting to a fault. So, when he brings up, well, I would divorce you if you went back into the military. I guess a normal person would probably be like, that's crazy. And my friends are like, that's crazy.
Because they're outsiders. Like, I feel like anyone can relate to that. We're in the moment. You're like, and then you get the privilege of like watching it back.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, and I remember talking to my friends, and that was their big thing. They did not like that. And for me, I understood where Ramses was coming from in that. And I don't necessarily agree or disagree with what he said, but at the time I didn't think it was that big of a deal. But obviously everyone else was like, including my friends,
I
my family, were just like, excuse me. And I think it did start the conversation of what kind of led to our breakup was, how far are we willing to go before a divorce in our relationship? And I was willing to go a lot further. Yeah. Because I hadn't been married before.
Right. So that's another topic that I wanted to ask you about, because he had been married before.
Yeah.
And thinking about that, it's like, was that ever like a big thing in your head? Like, did you ever consider like, oh, this person has been married before, there are other conversations we should have, or anything like that?
Honestly, no. Okay. Both Ramses and Bowden were previously married.
Okay, I forgot that about Bowden.
Yeah, Bowden and Ramses had so many parallels. And the only difference was really their main their energies were different. And Bowden was more my energy, and Ramses was more calming and chill. Yeah. But yeah, so I didn't, no. Okay. I don't think being divorced is a bad thing, and I don't mind dating a man who's been divorced, who has kids. Like, I'm not against that.
Okay, I have the exact same stance, and that is like surprisingly a question that I get a lot is people who have been divorced, and they're like, how do I bring it up? Like, how do I talk about it? And I'm like, the right person isn't going to care. It's not going to be, I think the more important thing is like how you do talk about it, like what you learned from it. Maybe like the way you talk about that relationship can be kind of telling, and like, are you ready to settle down again, and those types of things.
Yeah.
But to me, that's like, not to minimize like marriage, but I think that's a conversation you should have about like any past relationship. Like, they weren't married before.
Like, I got married. I fell in love, and Ramses got married really young, and or kind of young. He was, I think, 25 when he got married. But you know, he even said it in the pods. You know, he's been married once, and he never thought he'd get married again. And so this experience was like, if I find my person, I'll get married to them. Yeah. But if not, you know. Moving on. So I don't mind if you're married. Yeah. Cool. I get how do you talk about your relationship? What's that relationship look like between you and your ex? What happened? What did you learn from it? So,
and then that ultimately ended up seeming like he still did have like some fear attached to hurting somebody the way that he might have hurt his previous wife.
Absolutely.
And so then ultimately he decided to call off the wedding, which was really like blindsiding. I don't have to tell you that. But I'm curious if it felt so much like that in the moment. Like, from obviously when you're watching it back, you probably do see these little things that are like, oh, I should have like that. But like in the moment, you were like completely shocked.
In the moment, completely shocked. The night before was weird. The night we had a weird night. Yeah. That was our first like weird, but it wasn't, we're going to break up weird.
Right.
It was just like, okay, just learning each other type of weird. That was our first time having that. And so I didn't think anything of it. I woke up in the morning and something, you know, again, intuition tells you something's up. And so when I texted him on my way to class, I said, hey, you know, I'm feeling this way.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, actually, I'm feeling some nerves about the wedding. And then, you know, we got on the phone, and then I went down there and the breakup ensued. But, and during the breakup, he never said, we should break up and this is over. It was more like we shouldn't be together, which I guess essentially is the same thing. But when you're going through the breakup, you're like, wait, I'm just trying to understand. You said you want to marry me last night when we talked to the wedding planner. So I'm trying to understand what happened between you loved me.
Yeah.
Let's pick our first dance. Like, I don't know. It was just, it was a lot.
It's so crazy how normal people can act even when they like have in their head that they might not be. Like any breakup, obviously this is like an extreme version of that, but it's like, it's so easy to go back and be like, wait, he broke up with me today, but like yesterday he texted me good morning and he was being normal. Like, it's like, why are you doing that? It's so strange. And from this, like, one of the big things that stood out to me was like, it didn't seem like it was like he had made up his mind and there was like no other conversation to be had. Like, that's the perspective that I got. And it was like, it seemed like from your perspective, it was like, okay, well, should we try to date? Like, we don't have to get married. Yes. Obviously that's a lot, but it's like, it seemed like it was very cut and dried.
Yes, which made it worse. I think had he said, let's have a conversation, I don't think I can get married.
Yeah.
I would have worked through that.
Yeah.
There was just I told him that. There was no doubt about that. It was the discarding of the relationship and me. And I know that he was the experience was a lot for him, being on camera.
Yeah.
Him not living in his own home.
Yeah.
I knew that was a lot for him. But, you know, you're in a relationship, you have a conversation. But again, sometimes breakups, you don't have a say.
Yeah.
I just feel if you're engaged to get married in 4 days, it should be this is how I'm feeling. And those feelings might be, okay, hey, maybe we shouldn't get married. Maybe we should chill for a minute and try to figure things out instead of, don't want to marry you, don't want to date you, we're done.
Yeah.
Like, that was crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That was crazy.
So insane to think
oh my
about.
God. But, you know, I know he didn't do it with ill intent.
Right.
I just think he was ready to get out. I think he was like, end of the experience, end of the relationship. I need to go home to my abode and be with myself. Like, I think that's what I really think ended up happening.
Yeah. And I mean, it's crazy because on one hand, it's like you guys at that point knew each other so well because you've been going through this crazy experience together. And obviously you decided you loved each other enough to get married. But on the other hand, it's like, how long did you actually know each other at that point?
6 weeks.
Yeah.
probably.
So it's like, you don't know exactly how they handle these types of situations. So it's like, it can be so blindsiding.
Yes.
And then we were talking a little bit before we started recording, and it's like, it seemed like after that happened, it was like a final decision, but yet you still kept up some communication.
Yeah, we lacked boundaries for sure.
Mhm.
I think had we had better boundaries, the recovery of the breakup would have been a lot better. Ramses felt like he needed to be available to me to help me get through things, which was really great. I was really happy about that. I really felt like I needed that because he's the only one that I know that went through that with me. We're very trauma bonded in that sense, right? But in reality, I could have had better boundaries, and he could have had better boundaries of us just like not talking to each other, saying, hey, like, this is not, I'll be available for the first week. And then after that, so you can't call me anymore. You can't drunk text me anymore. Like, I should have blocked. I did. I tried blocking. I tried deleting his number. Like, I tried doing all that.
Yeah, there's all the things, but there's always ways around them.
Yes, exactly. I'm like, I know where this man lives.
Yeah.
So, I was kind of crazy about it. But, and for him, I don't fault him for the lack of boundaries either, because he also was going through a breakup.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't the only one. Obviously, I'm blindsided by it. I'm taking it hard, but he's also having a hard time.
Yeah, he did love you. It's like a lot for anybody to get over.
Yeah.
And so did you like see him at all during that time, or was it mostly just you would talk on the phone or text or things like that?
I saw him a few times, mainly if I were like, drunk in DC.
Yeah.
I was drinking a lot more than I should have. So I stopped for a bit. But yeah, I'd get drunk. I'd drunk text him. They'd come over. Sometimes we'd hook up. Sometimes we wouldn't. Like, sometimes we'd just talk. We'd talk on the phone here and there. He just made himself available to me.
Yeah.
Which is just like, it's a nice thing, but it's also like, we can't do this.
Yeah.
Because we have to move on. And I think at a point we did recognize that. Like, we did recognize we needed to.
And at any point, did you and Bowden try again? Okay, I'm just going to take a quick break to tell you a little bit more about our sponsor, First Rounds on Me. So we all know the struggle that comes along with using dating apps. Waiting for their reply, spending too much time texting, and then never going out in real life. First Rounds on Me changes the game by making the transition from online chat to in-person meetup as easy and as smooth as possible. So there's no endless back and forth. The app only gives you 24 hours to chat, so you'll know right away if there's a spark and if you're going to meet up. And there's no need to plan the perfect date or have endless discussions. First Rounds on Me actually has a built-in planner that makes it easy to set things up and really enjoy the moment. And it's all about quality, not quantity. So I don't believe that dating is a numbers game. It's about being intentional. On First Rounds on Me, you only get one match per day, so you can have a focused and intentional approach to dating. No more endless scrolling, just real connections. First Rounds on Me takes the pressure off dating. Head to the link in the show notes and you can get your first month for free with the code MOSTLYDATING. And at any point, did you and Bowden try again?
No.
I needed to know because I feel like that must be such a weird feeling of like you meet the person that like you almost chose or that you considered choosing.
Yeah, it is weird because the chemistry is there and you're like, oh, wow, like we did. I mean, me and him had chemistry through the wall, so it makes sense. But I only wanted Ramses. And I chose him for a reason. And so when I got out, it never really crossed my mind to try with Bowden.
Yeah.
But it definitely, like, I think anyone would be lying if they said they didn't think about it at one point. Like, I was like, oh, should I have picked Bowden?
Yeah.
Like, what would that have looked like? But no.
Which, like, we could all think about people that we, like, didn't choose to date or things like that. Like, oh,
exactly.
What would future have looked like with them?
Exactly. So I'd be lying to say I didn't think about it, but not in a serious manner now.
Yeah. And so it's about a year that happens between when you record and it airs?
Yes.
Okay. So during that time, you're obviously trying to heal from the breakup, and then you're also kind of like anticipating this show coming out. And you're going to have to watch it all through and everything. So what was that experience like?
Daunting, anxious all the time. I was going to therapy, once a week, crying, just trying to get through the breakup. But also, I felt that it is harder to get through a breakup when you know you're going to have to relive it and everyone's going to see it. Because usually I block, never have to see this person again, move on.
Yeah.
But I couldn't just block Ramses because we're connected through the show, and I'm going to have to see him again. I'm going to have to do interviews talking about him. We're going to have to be in the same room again. So it didn't feel like I could just block him and move on.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's why we lacked the boundaries.
Yeah.
I just felt like because I just block an ex, and then I'm like, you don't have access to me anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have access to you either.
Yeah. And it's like easy in a sense because you might never have to see that person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But with Ramses, it was like, I'm going to have to see him again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so then the show comes out, and I'm assuming, would you guys like text as the episodes were airing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We'd talk on the phone. We'd text, we'd chat, an hour here, hour there. Working through our emotions of how we were feeling about what we were seeing and what was real, because I think that is probably that's something that people don't think about is you're watching it, and it was a year ago, and you're trying to remember like, wait, is that really how that went down, or is that an edit?
Yeah.
Like, so you're really trying to dissect the episodes. And it's very interesting, and you're also just trying to be there for each other. And it's also weird because you are reliving the falling in love part.
Yeah.
And not that I was like falling back in love with Ramses. That's not at all what I'm saying. You feel like, oh, I remember how I felt in that moment. And it's a good feeling. You're like, oh, that felt so fun. And like, you laugh when, there's a funny part with you too. And so that could be very confusing. And so, yes, we did communicate.
Yeah. And so a big theme for the season, I feel like, was that we would suddenly be like dropped into the middle of something that was happening. And it's like, what did I miss?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, especially with some of the other couples, like not as many times that I was like so confused of what was going on with you guys. Some of the other couples, it would be like, I just missed a whole argument.
Yeah.
It's like, what happened?
Yeah. People were very careful about what they put on camera.
Yeah. So how do they do that? There's just like areas that they don't have the cameras and they're able to.
There's actually a lot more off camera time.
Okay.
Than people realize. And so when you're back at home, you are living your regular lives. So people are going to work. And so you have a schedule and for filming. So when you can talk about things and when you can't. And you wait until the camera's off to talk about certain things, which then could lead into a fight and argument that is all off camera. Then the next day or the next, the camera comes and the producers ask how everything's going.
Yeah.
Like, I hate this person right now. Like, okay, well, let's film it. But they're authentic, so they're not going to necessarily ask you to
tell us what happened.
Yeah, they'll be like, tell us what happened, tell us what's going on, but they're not going to have you pretend like you just started the fight.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah, so we'd be like confused. I'm like, what did I miss?
I know, I kept seeing everyone talk about that, and I was like, I don't know. I don't know. We did everything on camera, for sure.
Yeah.
Me and Ramses had all our big conversations.
Yeah, and then of course it just got edited.
Yeah.
So with specific conversations, like we talked about the stuff with the military, but then the other big one was the intimacy and the sex thing. Was that did you feel like that was a bad edit, or what do you think? How real do you think that came across on the screen?
So the birth control conversation I felt pretty edited. Like, I think if you really pay attention to when it goes back and forth to him and I, like our positioning and like I'm sitting up and then maybe I'm sitting here, like it's here. So you do kind of see that. But the birth control conversation, was pretty accurate for the most part. The vasectomy part was separate.
Okay. Yeah.
He was saying that in regards to he just never thought about vasectomy. And the whole like men never think about that type of stuff was a part of that vasectomy. But we did talk about vasectomies and other avenues of birth control. But yeah, I mean, there's a point where I think I say, oh my God, Ramses, this is so bad. Because he is saying what he's saying. Like no one forced him to say that. But I think it could be misconstrued. And I also just think at times, sometimes you just say something, you don't realize how it sounds.
Yeah, on camera.
On camera. And then you see it and you're like, I never said that. It's like, well, actually you did.
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember the conversations and they weren't great. And I would me and my producer talked about it afterwards of like, that was a great conversation, and I was like, it's okay. It's fine. We worked through it. We talked through it.
Yeah.
But it did not go, it wasn't smooth.
Yeah. And so for people who are listening who might not have seen that conversation, so you are not on birth control is what it came down to. And he did not want to use condoms.
It wasn't that he didn't want to use condoms. He just didn't want to be in a marriage using condoms regularly.
Right.
And so he was saying, condoms are not pleasurable. And I was saying, yeah, well, I'm not going on birth control. Like that that part did happen the way it did, right? But if I had asked him to be on birth control, if I had asked him to wear a condom. He would have.
Right. Yeah.
Like, he was just saying, he preferred not to. And I said, well, that's cool. I am not going to go on birth control.
Yeah. It's kind of like
the part that I really like zoned in on as I watched it was, wow, I should have took note of the fact that we then were talking about kids. And I was like, well, we're going to have to accept the consequences of if we have sex without birth control. And he was like, he didn't want kids for a while. And I also could wait. I was never like, I have to have kids. If I have kids naturally and it happens, cool. If my partner doesn't want kids, if I'm in love with my partner, I'm okay with not having kids.
Okay.
Like that's my stance with kids. I'm not like die hard for them. So, but I did tell Ramses, like, I think in that conversation, if we're not using condoms and we have a kid, like we're having the kid.
Yeah.
Like, and that should have been like my red flag when he was like,
But again, you're getting your cards on the table. Like that's like, and that's one of the things that this show, it's like, it's so interesting to me because it forces you to have these conversations that it's like, you might not be having like 4 weeks into knowing somebody.
Yeah.
And it's like, in a way that's really good, but I'm also curious as we'll get into this a little bit more, but now you're dating someone new. So when you were coming out of this whole experience of the show and you were feeling ready to date again, do you feel like you learned that, oh, it's great to have these conversations really early on? Or did it make you like, okay, pump the brakes, like let's not like rush forward?
To be honest, I am the type of dater that has these conversations.
Okay, yeah.
So while some people were very shocked of I haven't had, or kept saying like I haven't had these conversations with someone that I've dated for 3 years.
Yeah.
I cannot say the same. I have had all those conversations I was having in the pods are conversations I've had on dates because I'm just an oversharer and I'm just very open and honest and here's who I am. So for me, I didn't learn that lesson or anything, but I did learn to pay attention a little bit more to the response because I think I was so used to having these conversations and I'd hear a response and be like, okay, and not dive deeper.
Yeah.
So it had me diving deeper.
Yeah. Well, also with that topic specifically, it is kind of like, and I laugh a little in my head because I'm like, that did get blown up and rightfully so because some of the things you said, I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. But on the other hand, I think as I was seeing like articles come out and people talking about it, I'm like, people are acting like we don't have men saying stuff like this all the time. Like that's like it's like Ramses is the first guy to ever like. It's like I was like I guess it's good that it's bringing light to the fact that like men just kind of expect that we're the ones that'll be on birth control, and like I also choose not to be in birth control because I don't like what it does to like my hormones, and I just don't. I think I saw you posted something about natural cycles, and like
shameless plug.
I'm like, that's the perfect partnership for you now.
Yeah. I love natural cycles. I take my temperature every morning.
I use my Aura ring. And
I want to get the Aura ring.
You have to get one.
I want to get the Aura ring. I absolutely love natural cycles. I was doing that on my own, and actually Ramses downloaded the app that I was using at the time.
Oh, okay.
And you can like sync it with your partner, and so he was tracking my cycle.
He was making an effort.
Yeah, like that's the sucky part again. Like he wasn't this horrible person. He was trying to get me on birth control. It was just a messy conversation.
Yeah, and that everybody got to listen to. So
exactly.
And also like to your point, it's like as we have those conversations, and I'm like you, like I'm also like an oversharer, or I just like am an open book, I guess I would say, on early dates. And I think that that's good. It's like you get these conversations out of the way. You kind of like weed people out is like, in theory is like why I do it. But at the same time, it's sometimes you hear their answer and you're like, oh, okay, that like kind of works. And it's like, you're not like sitting there dissecting it. It's like the heart of what I want is there. And then you kind of might not notice like a red flag aspect.
Exactly. You put it perfectly. The heart is where, you know, it's there. And you're kind of like, okay, I can work with that. Like, don't necessarily agree, or I don't love that, but I don't think that's fatal and makes you a horrible person.
Yeah, exactly.
Very hard for me to think you're a horrible person. Very hard.
I'm the same way. I feel like we have similarities in that sense.
I agree.
Okay, so then you are healing from the breakup and waiting for Tare, and was there a point when you felt ready to date, or did you just kind of like put yourself out there because you knew you should?
I think, towards the spring when I started dating my current partner was when I felt ready to date. So like March.
Yeah.
I was worried that I wouldn't find somebody that I was in love with the way that I was with Ramses, as crazy as that sounds. But I just thought there's no way I'm going to find someone who has everything that I want. but I did. So
Yeah.
but I just, I took my time. I obviously could have taken a little bit longer. I don't know. I could have waited till after the show, but I met my partner. We were friends at that point, and I wanted to be with him, so I did it. Like my intuition said, do it, and I did it. So I usually would take a little bit longer.
Well, that's the thing, is that is another really common question that I get, is like, how do I know when I'm ready to date after a breakup, or like, when is too soon to date? And it's like, first of all, I don't think you ever feel fully ready. Like, I feel unless you took like a 4-year break from dating, it's like you're not. There's always going to be parts of you that still has like some thoughts about your ex, but it's like sometimes meeting the right person will help you like move through that. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. And also, like, I just don't think there's a timeline that works for everybody.
No, there's not. And, you learn so much about yourself in a relationship, even if it's a month or 2 or whatever, as long as you're being open and honest about where you're at with the person that you're dating, then I think that's all that matters. So when I met my partner, it was shortly after meeting Ramses or breaking up with Ramses, and I was very honest with him about where I was at, and he was patient, and we went on dates and we had a good time, but I still was struggling, and so I knew I wasn't ready then. And so I think though it's easier to be single, obviously.
Yeah,
that's why breakups are so common.
Yeah,
but you learn a lot in a relationship, and so if you feel like it's right, do it. Who cares if someone thinks it's insane?
Yeah.
You should definitely listen to your friends and family at times. There's like a pattern, a pattern of constantly being in and out of relationships. Definitely be worried about that. But, feels right.
Yeah, exactly. And so you guys met, and it was soon after. And first of all, big green flag that he was like not insecure about the fact that you were like still sort of like having this communication, and also like feeling things about Ramses, which is to be expected. And also, that's just like a big plug for people to like be open about those types of things. Like, as I always say, it's like the right person, when you're open about those things, they're not going to be scared away.
Exactly. My partner is the right freaking person.
Yeah.
He knew where I was at. I let him in. I wasn't 100%, like, he didn't know how depressed I was. He knew I was down, down bad, crying at the gym. But he didn't, I kept that part from him. But as far as where I was at, as far as dating him and still having feelings for my ex, absolutely. He knew that. And we went on our dates, and at one point it came to a head where I just said, look, if Ramses came calling, I would, consider going back. And because I felt that way, I felt like I just was not ready to be with him. So we just stopped going on dates, and we just stayed friends.
And then did you reach out again?
Yeah. Well, we stayed friends. We'd seen each other like once or twice. And then I was out in DC one night or one evening and I asked him where he was at, and we just were hanging out, and he was telling me actually about dating someone else. And I looked at him and I said, something was like, no. This is not it. Like, and I was like, no. You shouldn't be dating anyone. You should be dating me.
Yes.
And he did not believe me. He's like, no, Marissa, like, you're just saying that because you're a little drunk. I'm like, I'm actually not even drunk. And I wouldn't play with your emotions like that.
Yeah.
Like, I've always liked you. I just wasn't ready. And I'm ready now. And I just have this strong feeling of like, you are supposed to be in my life, and I want you in my life, and I'm not about to pass that up.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah, so I just went for it. I'm that person. Like, if I want it, I will go for it.
And that was in the spring.
Yeah.
And
in April.
So he was with you when you were watching the show. Went to the reunion. Did he like?
He didn't go. No,
he didn't. Wasn't obviously on TV, but he wasn't. Where was the reunion filmed?
LA.
Okay, so he didn't like fly there with you or anything.
No.
The reunion was wild. I feel like we would need a whole other episode to talk about that.
Good God.
Oh my God. But now you said you're moving in with him. Is that private information?
It's not private. We are moving in together this week.
Well,
so it feels like the right step and the next step logically for us. And I need to live with a partner before I get married to them. So
I feel the same way.
Yeah, gotta live with them.
That's a topic that I swear people will like die on a hill about. It's insane to me. I cannot imagine marrying somebody before I lived with them.
No, I have to live with you. I need to see what that's going to look like. And I don't plan on trying to date for 3 years.
Yeah.
I'm not on a timeline. I will say after the show, that was one of my biggest takeaways. There's no rush to get married. There's no reason to rush. If it's your right person, you'll get there.
Yeah.
But I did tell my boyfriend, I was like, look, we're not dating for 3 years, brother.
Yeah.
Okay, so just keep that in mind.
Yeah. Yeah, and for me, like the living together thing, I think there's obviously so many reasons for it, but I also am like very independent that like when I don't live with someone, sometimes I'll just be like, okay, I'm going back. Like I have to escape to my apartment for like a day or two. And so I need the experience of living with someone and like not being able to do that and like know that that will be okay.
Yeah. Oh, hey, like.
Yeah.
I like living with a partner.
Somebody. Yeah.
I learn a lot and it could go bad, it could go good. I would say I dated someone in college all 4 years, pretty much on and off. Like there's a lot of cheating and stuff on his end. And we moved in together my senior year. No, within a month, I think even within a week, I knew he wasn't the one. Yeah.
And when did you actually break up? How far?
A couple months later.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd been with him for so long and he was finally like getting his stuff together and wasn't doing all the stuff he did for the last, couple years. And so I was like, I should give it a chance. But I just kind of knew pretty early on. Then I moved in with another partner when I lived in San Diego. And that one I lived with him, I think, for almost a year. And I moved out and we were like friendly. It was very amicable, but he was good to live with. I had like no complaints. I could have kept living with him, honestly.
Yeah. That's like, it kind of is in line with what you were saying earlier. It's like, if you want to do something, do it. And it's like, even though those relationships didn't work out, I'm sure you learned a lot from living with them, even if it was like a shorter period.
And it's, what? You live with someone. It's like moving in with a roommate. You don't know what it's like till you move in with them. And then if you don't like it, you move out.
Yeah.
People, it's so funny when they're like, you're moving in?
Yeah, like it's like a marriage license.
If we break up, I'll move out or we'll move out. Like, we'll be okay. I do not understand why people freak out.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to do some listener questions. Okay, I'm going to pull these up.
Uh-oh. Take a sip of water.
I was telling you before we started recording that so many people responded wanting to know about your experience studying for the bar. So we'll cover that first. How is it going?
Studying for the bar is going well. Obviously, not studying in this very second. But I have been prioritizing studying over anything else. So everyone who follows me on socials knows that because I'm like, hey guys, not on socials. I'm studying. I haven't done my usual TikTok lives. I usually do like Wednesdays. Not doing those because I'm trying to stay focused.
Yeah. Well, people are very invested in that. So good luck.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, another common theme, which we did cover a little bit, but somebody asked, did being in the military affect how you dated people before the show? If yes, in what way?
Well, when I was in the military, dating was just a lot different. So you're generally going to date someone in the military just because you're constantly away, you're constantly deployed or underway for whatever reason. So I approached dating a lot differently, I think, at that time. I just didn't necessarily date. I was in a relationship for the first 2.5 years, and then I was single and kind of dating here and there, but the people I was meeting were on the ship, or on a ship close by.
Yeah.
So I didn't approach it any differently. I just was doing it because of the environment. It was just different. And then when I got out the military for law school, I was just, my first year, I was like, I can't date. I'm so focused on that. And then when I did decide to date, I just went back to the apps and, did that. But I pretty much approach how I go on dates the same. Yeah.
Did you initially meet your current boyfriend on the apps?
No, I met my boyfriend in DC at a bar called Barcelona.
Oh, plug for the bar.
Barcelona, DC. Yes. We met at a bar. He approached me.
Okay.
Yes. And we had I was with my now roommate, Katie, and she knew some of his friends. And so we all connected there. And
I feel like you have a very approachable energy because everybody complains that they don't get approached in bars anymore. And I think maybe you just have to I feel like it's like, if you are out with your friends and you're kind of like smiling and having fun, that's the way that it happens. It's like if you're sitting at a table with your friends and you are all kind of closed off, then people aren't going to.
People are not going to approach you. That's such a thing. My mom actually is like that. When she goes to bars, she looks so angry. She never gets approached because she looks like she's going to kill someone and she's having a great time. It's just her look.
Yeah.
Versus me, I'm very, I guess I am approachable. I also, when I go out, don't look for men. Right. I am like having, especially if I'm there for my girls and we're having a girls' night. And that's what that night was. So I think that's also attractive is when you're just having fun, not looking for men. It's very obvious when you're with your girlfriends and you guys are just there and you can't have fun unless you're talking to a guy.
Yeah, and that's like your sole purpose of being there.
If you can have fun going out with your friends without talking to another man, get new friends.
Yeah.
Like, or maybe you need to do some internal work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so this person says, oh, this is a cute one. What has been the best part of your relationship with your boyfriend at this time?
Ooh, the best part? There's been a lot of good parts. You know what? I would say the best part would be how we always come back. Like we choose each other every single day. And I know that sounds so cliche, but the best part is like being with someone who I've showed all sides of me. He has seen me through medical issues. He's seen me through the depression, the show, all types of things, financial woes. And he's there. Like he's a pillar. The commitment is there. And I don't think I've ever been with someone so committed. Yeah. So it's the best part has been like, that's my friend. Mm-hmm. We're friends. Like we're going to be there for each other. And I can rely on him and he can rely on me. And it's so nice to have that. I've never had that, that level. And so
that's such a good answer because it's like something that you really like feel deeply. It's like a hard thing to explain, but I feel the same way. And it's like not something I felt about previous partners. It's like you don't really realize that it's missing, and then you experience it, and you're like, oh, like this.
Oh, this is what it is. And I think, and it's weird because, like, I've obviously been in committed relationships, but it's just different. Even when I'm so angry with him and we're in an argument or whatever, I usually am like, I'm out of here. I don't want to be in this relationship. I'm done. But with him, I'm like, no. We're a team. We have to figure this out together. Yeah. And he's very much the same way. Yeah. So it's been really nice. Mm-hmm. It's been really, really nice.
Okay, I love that. Okay, we'll do a couple more. This person asked, did you typically talk about intimacy early on? We kind of talked about this, but like, would that come up early on in dating for you?
I would say by date 3, if the vibes are there with that guy, yes. Yeah. But I don't like first dates talking about any sexual, physical intimacy.
Or like before the first date.
Or even before. Do not. If a guy is texting you sexual stuff before, like, I just don't like it. And I used to feel like I had to do it, right? I felt that I had to be sexually, explorative with all this other stuff for these guys to date me. But, as I got older in my 30s and stuff, I was like, no, it's a turn off to me. Do not talk to me about that because it just shows like, you're looking for something more physical. And sometimes that was okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I love a guy. I had a guy I went on like a couple dates with, and he was like, look, I'm just looking to hook up. And I said, cool, let's hook up.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. That can work out.
Or, someone's approached me before and I'm like, hey, that's not what I'm looking for. So, I have it pretty early on, but not before dates.
Yeah, and I also think, like, at least in my experience, it's not something that I'm like, this is the date I'm going to talk about it. Like, it just comes up naturally when you're building chemistry. It's like, and then that's when you can tell that there's like that connection there.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I like that answer. All right. This person says, did you prepare for the show at all, or did you just go with the flow?
Before I went to set and before I went onto the show, no, I didn't prepare. I take that back. I'm a big journaler. So I did journal a lot about what I was looking for and manifesting what I wanted from a partner. And also looking at like, what are my red flags? What are some things that I do in relationships that could be turn off for guys or things that I do that, would be difficult to live with for another person, things like that. So I just did a lot of like introspection. But before the show, I loved life. I felt very confident and great. I even considered not doing it because I was like, Mom, I just love life right now. Everything's so perfect. Yeah. I don't know. I don't really need a man right now. She's like, So,
but it was meant to be, I think.
Oh yeah, no, I was meant to be there. Yeah, I believe that.
Wait, so is that? Now I want to know more about your journaling. Is that something you do every day?
It is something that I used to do every day. I actually just bought 2 journals this week because I do need to get back into it. But I have started journaling when I was 10. Because I read the Anne Frank book and I lived in Germany at the time and we watched the movie and I was honestly inspired by her.
That's so cool.
I know it's so, thank you. I don't know if it's ever like a weird thing to say, but I was inspired by her journaling through her experience and the way she wrote. And so I started. And so I have 20-something journals. I used to journal every
You still have all of them?
I have all of them.
Oh, that is
when I die, oh my God. Yeah. Someone's going to have it.
I wish I had that. Like, I wish I can't like even remember some of these like years.
Oh, I could go back. I could tell you names. Because what I used to do is I'd get out from school, go home, and I'm journaling about my day.
Yeah.
What people were wearing, what they were doing, who said what to me, everything. So I can
so
go
cathartic too.
Yeah, it's my therapy for many years.
Yeah. What was on your list of the things you were looking for?
I was looking for someone who was very compassionate, very empathetic, someone who didn't take themselves too seriously, who can laugh at themselves. I was looking for someone who really believed in commitment and wanted that commitment and didn't want to like run as soon as things got hard. So I was looking for some resilience in their life, and also looking for someone who experienced adversity. I've dated people who've never been through anything hard, and then they have a hard moment and they don't know how to handle it. And I wanted someone who'd been through at least some stuff, a little trauma.
Yeah.
I can't be the only one with the trauma. So, so those were some of the things I was looking for. Someone who also had their own life, their own friends, their own job. I will say that I went into the pods wanting someone who made a certain amount of money and certain degree because, I have my law degree.
Yeah.
And that was not Ramses.
Yeah.
And it was part of my journey. I was sad they didn't show that, but part of my journey was coming to terms with Ramses not having A, B, C, and D that I wanted, but me realizing those things were actually not important because him as a person, he's valuable without these like, tangible things and stuff like that. So
wait, I do wish that they showed that because I think that would have resonated with a lot of people too. Because sometimes a lot of times that is something that people are really looking for, especially like someone like you, and you have your law degree and all of these like ambitions.
I'm like, oh, he has to have a master's or PhD. He has to have a car. He has to have this and that. And Ramses didn't have a car. Doesn't have a degree. Like doesn't he works for a nonprofit, so he doesn't make millions of dollars. But I realized, I just was like, he's amazing. And who cares about their job? Who cares what their car is? I came to terms with that during the show because that was not my initial intention.
Yeah. And did you revisit that list of the things you were looking for after the show?
Hard now.
You just went with your gut and then you found something better.
Yeah. I have not looked back at that. I think it's been too painful to look at how excited and hopeful I was, just because the whole experience did change me mentally. And so I haven't really gone back there. But I do reread my journals generally.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I need to say again, it was so inspiring watching your story unfold. I know it was not what you expected, and I'm sure it was very difficult for you, but I think it probably helped so many people. So I always like to close with advice. So can you tell everybody listening maybe just some advice on healing from a breakup?
Ooh, okay. I guess the best advice would be to not rush the healing process. I tried to rush healing over Ramses and other breakups, and it did more damage than good. I also think that it's okay to have big feelings about the breakup. It is okay 3 months, 4 months, the breakup's over and you're still crying and upset. Breaking up and dealing with healing is not linear. There were some days I was great. There were some days I was not great.
Yeah.
And so my best advice would be to really be patient with yourself and realize you just went through something that is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's called heartbreaking for a reason. So, be patient and give yourself a lot of grace.
That's great advice.
Hopefully. I don't know. I don't have better advice. I did a lot of bad things and good things, and it just wasn't.
You have to.
It's a messy. It could be messy, but I made it out. So.
Yeah. Okay. So where can everyone find you and follow along with everything you're doing?
You can find me on Instagram, Marissa.George. I used to be called Rissa back in the day, and then I went back to Marissa. But you could find me on Instagram. I am also on TikTok under official _ Marissa G, and hopefully on YouTube.
Yes, we need your YouTube channel.
Yeah, coming to YouTube.
Amazing.
Very soon.
And now you have to do it.
Yeah, I already started the channel. I just haven't uploaded anything, but it's Marissa G Unscripted.
Okay.
So.
I'm going to link everything in the show notes, but thank you again. This was amazing.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.